How did a simple kid from the streets of the Bronx, with not a dime to his name, manage to become the king of the most dangerous city on the planet, New York? His name was John Gotti, but the press nicknamed him the Teflon Don. Bullets seemed to bounce off him, and FBI agents could only throw up their hands, losing in court again and again. But what if I told you that the secret to his invincibility was also the key to his downfall? In this video, we'll crack open the archives and show you the one fatal mistake that the authorities kept silent about for decades. Watch until the end, and you'll find out how the last great godfather of America truly fell. Picture New York in the 50s, a city of contrasts, where skyscrapers cast long shadows over poor neighborhoods teeming with their own kind of street life. It was here, in a large Italian family, that our hero was born, John Gotti. From childhood, he understood one simple rule: if you're not a predator, you're prey. The street became his university, and local gangsters were his professors. He didn't want to break his back in a factory for pennies. He wanted it all, and he wanted it now. His career began with a gang called the Fulton Rockaway Boys. This wasn't the mafia in expensive suits. These were daring, hungry wolves involved in car theft, robbery, and racketeering. Even then, Gotti stood out. He didn't just have muscle, he had charisma. People were drawn to him, sensing a leader who was willing to go all the way. He was a born leader of the pack, and more serious people began to take notice. He was noticed by Agnello Della Croce, the underboss of the most powerful Gambino family. This was his ticket to the major leagues. Della Croce became a second father to Gotti, his mentor in the world of Cosa Nostra. He taught him the most important law, omerta, the code of silence. No matter what happens, you never betray the family. The only penalty for breaking this rule was death. Gotti absorbed these lessons like a sponge. He was loyal and ruthless. The center of his power became the Bergen Hunt and Fish Club, a shabby-looking bar in Queens. To the outside world, it was just an ordinary place, but in reality, it was his crew's headquarters. This is where plots were hatched, million-dollar deals were made, and death sentences were passed. The air in this place was thick with cigar smoke, the smell of expensive whiskey, and fear. Gotti built a team of the most loyal and hardened soldiers around him, ready to do anything at his command. But to become the king, you have to overthrow the old king. The boss of the Gambino family was Paul Castellano. He was an old-school businessman who despised street-level grit, drugs, and unnecessary noise. He sat in his mansion like an old spider, raking in the profits while his soldiers risked their lives on the streets. In the eyes of guys like Gotti, he was a greedy, out-of-touch old man who had weakened the family.
The tension was building. Castellano didn't respect Gotti and his crew, seeing them as upstarts. The final straw was when Castellano failed to show up at the funeral of Gotti's mentor, Agnello Della Croce. In the mafia world, this was an unheard-of insult, a public slap in the face. For Gotti, this was the signal. It was time to act. Either he would kill Castellano, or sooner or later, Castellano would get rid of him. December 16th, 1985, New York, Sparks Steakhouse. Paul Castellano pulls up to the restaurant in his black Lincoln. He has no idea that this will be his last dinner. The moment he steps out of the car, several figures emerge from the shadows. The roar of gunfire shatters the evening air. The boss of the most powerful mafia family in America falls dead on the pavement. Gotti, watching it all from a car nearby, slowly drives past to make sure the job is done. This wasn't just a hit. It was a coronation. John Gotti, the defiant street soldier, had just decapitated the Gambino family and taken the throne. From this moment, his era begins, the era of the Teflon Don. He didn't hide in the shadows like the old bosses. He reveled in his power. Expensive Brioni suits, a perfect haircut, a wide smile for the reporters' cameras. He turned the mafia into a show and himself into its biggest star. The public loved him. To ordinary people, he was a Robin Hood figure, a guy from the neighborhood who had beaten the system. He set off fireworks in his neighborhood, handed out turkeys for Thanksgiving. The press followed his every move. Whenever the FBI arrested him, he would just smirk for the cameras. He knew he would be acquitted. And he was, time and time again. 3 high-profile trials, and each time the verdict was not guilty. How did he do it? It was simple. Fear. Witnesses would suddenly forget their testimony right on the stand. Jurors received unambiguous hints and threats. One juror who helped him win a case received an envelope with $60,000. Gotti was certain of his own impunity. He became an icon, a symbol that you could challenge the government and win. He was invincible, as if made of Teflon. Nothing stuck to him. But the FBI aren't the kind of guys who give up. They realized they couldn't beat him in court. They had to destroy him from within. And they found his Achilles heel. That weakness was his own pride and talkativeness. Agents planted bugs in all his favorite spots, the club, his apartments, even the apartment of a soldier's widow where he liked to hold secret meetings. Gotti talked non-stop, unaware that his every word was being recorded.
He bragged about murders, discussed racketeering, money laundering. He talked about everything. But his most terrible mistake was that on these tapes, he began to humiliate his most loyal man, his underboss and best friend, Sammy the Bull Gravano. Gravano was a killing machine, a loyal bulldog who had personally committed 19 murders on the family's orders. He worshipped Gotti. And so, when the FBI arrested them both, they let Sammy listen to those tapes. He heard Gotti, the man he considered a brother, laughing at him behind his back, calling him greedy and stupid, and essentially setting him up to be the fall guy. Sammy Gravano's world collapsed. His entire life, built on a code of honor and loyalty, was a lie. He realized that Gotti would throw him to the wolves without a second thought to save his own skin. And then, Sammy the Bull did the unthinkable. He broke omerta. He became a government witness. It was a knife to the very heart of the mafia. The Don's right-hand man, his most trusted associate, agreed to testify against him. For Cosa Nostra, it was an earthquake. A betrayal of this magnitude meant the end of everything. John Gotti's Teflon coating was scraped down to the bare metal. The trial was a circus. For the first time in history, a mafia underboss was testifying against his boss. Sammy Gravano calmly and methodically detailed dozens of crimes, murders in which Gotti was directly involved. He described how Gotti personally gave the orders. The smirk vanished from the Don's face forever. He sat in the courtroom, staring daggers at his former friend. But it was all over. The sentence was harsh. Life in prison without the possibility of parole. He was sent to the most secure prison in the United States, into total solitary confinement, 23 hours a day in a concrete box. For a man who loved the spotlight, who lived under the glare of flashbulbs, this was a torture worse than death. His entire empire, built on blood and fear, collapsed in an instant because of a few careless words and the betrayal of his closest confidant.
John Gotti, the Teflon Don, the king of New York, died in a prison hospital from throat cancer in 2002. He ended his days alone, broken and helpless. He cheated the system, he became a legend, but he paid the most terrible price imaginable for it. He lost everything: power, family, freedom, and ultimately, his life. His story is a stark example that no one can stay at the top of the criminal world forever.